Welcome everybody, Don Giannetti at Lighting Essentials. Today we're talking to a gentleman who's lived his life being a creative, and I find that fascinating because I know how difficult that can be. I first ran into this guy by buying one of his books, uh, Tales of the Beast. Uh, all of
So
a
it's called
sudden,
Freedom's Rush,
Freedom's Rush,
Tales from the Biker and
and
the Beast.
talking about riding his motorcycle called the Beast, and just recently came out with Freedom's Rush 2. Excellent book, by the way, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But Dwight is a composer and an author and a motorcycle rider. Welcome to the show, Dwight.
Oh, I love being here, Don.
It's great to have you here. It's always fun to talk to somebody when you've read their words, you know. And I was totally hooked on Freedom's Rush. Read it twice. Uh,
Ah, awesome.
and and you've got a couple of short stories. That the one about your
Yeah.
daughter and the ballet is super cool.
Oh, thank you.
Uh,
Thank you. My little girl.
yes,
Yeah.
super cool, folks. I've links down in the bottom. You can go up and check out the books and the short stories and everything over at Amazon. So Dwight, you've been a creative most of your life, all of your life. When did this start for you?
Well, in school, I was a good student, got A's mostly, and I was mostly into science, tell you the truth. It wasn't until toward the end, my senior year in high school, I had had so many credits that I was given the option of going to school part-time or taking some elective classes. And the high school I went to, Mount Whitney in Visalia, California, what you could do is you could choose a subject, find a teacher who knew about it, and then study with him. So in the first semester, I studied. I did a study with my chemistry teacher, Mr. Christensen, and I did a paper on light refraction, did a paper on probability, and so forth. And then in the second semester, my band teacher told me about. He had a book by Walter Piston called Harmony. Now, I was used to reading textbooks and stuff, so I looked at it as a how-to manual for writing music. And so I started reading it, and I just got fascinated with it. My first compositions for the school orchestra, which was all of maybe 14, 15 players, were absolutely horrible. I was devastated when I first heard them. And didn't realize there was a thing called alto clef for the violist. Well, anyway, but I just kept doing it, and then moved down to LA and started getting a family. But then I just got terrified about not being able to support my kids and stuff. So I became a music copyist. I always had a good hand, and that's where most, hour wise, most of my income has come from. But I've done a lot of ghostwriting, a lot of films I ghost wrote on, and a lot of albums. Did a lot of arrangements, and just here and there, and just kept writing the classical stuff. I've got, I don't know, over 80 pieces in file cabinets in the garage, probably half eaten by moths by now. But nevertheless, I just keep doing it, and I love it. I love that. It's similar to you with the photography. You love those details. You just love getting in and just getting everything right, and that divine adventure that where you go toward perfection. You'll never get there, but damn it, you just keep going for it anyway.
Well, the day you get there is probably the day you meet your maker anyway. 'Cause,
Yeah, you're right.
um,
Exactly.
are you you're still writing? I know. Are you still pen and onion skin, or are you computer?
Pen and onion skin. I love you. Do you even know that?
I
No,
do
I'm
it.
on a computer now. Yeah, no, I actually compose in Finale right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point where I can just decide what needs to get done and then just go ahead and do it, and then not very many amendments after that. If I write something and it's not 95% done, I just throw it away and start over. I just don't want to go through that. But And plus, getting it on Finale right away is just quick because you're going to end up there or Sibelius anyway. So why not just go directly there?
I've got it. I've launched it twice, and I sit in front of the screen going, "What?"
What
A little window over here and a window over here, and I'm like, I'm gonna go back to Photoshop. That's easy.
yeah, I look at Photoshop in the same way and go, what? And you got to promise not to make fun of me. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a pro photographer like you, but I just
Oh,
go
you
back
got
to
some great shots
ISO.
up there. Uh,
Well, yeah, but you look, you take 5,000 photos, 10,000, you're going to just by accident going to get some good ones, right? But
well,
no, I just do all my stuff in iPhoto. It's good enough for me, so
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. I was looking at your credits, and you've arranged for Quincy Jones, and I mean, there's some big
Yeah.
names on there. What's it like working with, um, some of those really big creative guys? I mean, Quincy Jones is a hero.
Oh, I will tell you this. Quincy Jones just might have the best set of ears, one of the best set of ears I've ever come across. Um, yeah, the work I did for Quincy was when every year he'd have a band go to Montreux Jazz
Hmm.
Festival, and he'd want stuff, his older stuff, reorchestrated for the instrumentation there. So that's what we did about, I don't know, probably 4, 5, 6 years in a row. I worked with a couple other guys. Orion Crawford was the main guy. It was his gig, and yeah, it was great. I remember one of the rehearsals. Uh, and some of his chords are pretty deep. I mean, and they're thick, and a lot of players and everything. There's one of those rehearsals, and they're just going along in tempo. And I wasn't there, but Quincy stopped him and goes, "Wait a second. Somebody got an A flat, bar 61." He goes, "Yeah." He says, "This should be an A natural." And I was going, "Good Lord." You heard that in tempo. My God.
Reminds me of Stravinsky's note to Elliott Carter on the uh, Concerto for Orchestra.
Yeah.
There's a picture of Carter standing in front of the score for the violins. He had the violins all single broken out. So there's like 26 staves of violins doing something. And Stravinsky wrote, I'm not sure that anyone's going to hear that C sharp on measure 403. And Elliot Carter's just standing there with a big grin on his face. It's very, very, I don't know how some of those guys
Yeah.
I sometimes I can't catch it in my own music if they misplay it or
Oh,
didn't. I don't write
yeah.
much
Tell me
anymore.
about it. Tell me about it. I mean, it's horrible. You go through it and you go through it and you go through it and you go through it. And then it comes out, and you're there rehearsing, you go, "Good Lord, where did that come from?" I just never heard it. But there are a lot of good anecdotes. There's one of Debussy when I think they were doing La Mer, right? And that stuff was copied by hand by a bunch of different people, parts and everything, because it was, the first rehearsal, first performance and everything hadn't been published yet. And I think the clarinet player called up and said, "I have a note, in this measure. I can't tell if it's an A or a G." And Debussy looks up and he goes, "Well, either one works. Which is best for you?"
Yeah,
uh,
I'm
uh,
sure you're familiar with the composer George Crumb.
yeah, yeah,
I met
yeah.
George Crumb and got to spend a long weekend with him with my mentor here in when I was in school. And George would had this sort of mantra that he would those beautiful handwritten scores,
Right.
drawing them with a ruler and all of that stuff. That he'd do 6 pages for every one page that he ended up keeping. Right?
Uh-huh.
I didn't. I never
Yeah,
saw him throw away a page. He just kept on working.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I never met him. But
He was very,
he
very
was.
nice. Super nice man.
Was he? Yeah, that's good to know because I remember, God, I was way back in my 20s when I spent about, oh God, 5, 6, 7 years writing nothing but atonal music. I had decided in my life I would never, ever, ever write a major chord.
Yep.
You know.
I've been there.
Yeah, I know, and boy, we were so important then. And I tell you. But yeah, I liked him, and one thing I like about those guys back then is their integrity to the music. They didn't. There was a. They really pushed music forward. They really pushed our collective ears for listening to things forward. They were seminal like that. No, you know what? They don't get performed hardly ever, and but they did their thing. They did their thing for music, and
Yeah.
my hats off to them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think some of the best classical music being written today is written for films. Um, Films.
yeah.
Some of these guys writing film scores. Howard Shore, um, John Williams. I mean, this is great music, and they do use major chords.
I know. Yeah, I did become enlightened back to major chords. Sometime I was 26, 27 years old, and I went,
Yeah.
"Oh, God, that is sort of beautiful. I like that."
Yeah, I think a lot of compositions come back that way. I was just listening to some very modern music online. You can find some. You just type in composer Topeka, Kansas, and you get these folks
Right,
come
right,
in, and not as much of the atonal Roger Reynolds sort of scraping the piano keys and things like that
right.
anymore.
Yeah, but nevertheless, those guys they did change the way. I mean, even when you listen to contemporary music that's accessible and tonal and everything, the approach is different. My own approach for years and 15, 20 years now has been sound tonal, but think atonal.
Hmm.
So you could look at my ballets and my piano music, and you could analyze harmonically in a traditional way, but that's not the way I think of it. Um, I have one song. I've written 3 songs with Emily Dickinson lyrics, and at the end of one of them, what I was looking at is how you just look at a 5/1 progression, da 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 dum, just dum dum, and one of the things that makes it work is that you're going from something that's a little more dissonant to something that's more consonant. So I started looking at cadences rather than 5/1 or 4/1 or that kind of thing, or an altered 5/1. Just looking at going from dissonance to consonance. So the last chord it's all strings, and the last chord and a voice is I don't know. It's some sort of I think it's just I had to keep changing keys because of the singers. But anyway, it's basically like a C major 7 to sharp 11, you know. And as the strings are holding it and going out, I decrescendo out the sharp 11, and then the 13, and then the major 7, and then the 5th, and it ends up with just the root and the 3rd, and it's just a marvelous cadence. I
That's
mean, it takes a while, but it's all a C chord. I mean, I'm not changing the basic chord there, but just taking out the dissonances, and not that the 5th is a dissonance, but there's just something lovely about a major chord without a 5th in it. Just root in the 3rd. It's just like you go, oh, that's what it's supposed to be. you know.
yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, and so those guys changed the way we look at things, and and I'm not the only guy who did that, not the only guy who says that about think tonal. I mean, sound tonal, think atonal, but it's just opened up a new way to look at things and make them sound.
Anytime it makes us think about what we're doing in any way that we're doing, it's going to make us better at what we're doing. Even if we decide we
Yeah,
don't like it, it still reinforces what we're doing.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's
No,
why
you're
I love it so much. So,
right.
when did you decide to be an author?
Well, I didn't start riding a motorcycle until August 2008. Okay. I guess I was, what, 54 years old. And the first time I got in that bike, well, you read it in the book.
Yep.
First time I got in the bike, I went flying over and got that little concussion. I was out for a half a minute. But my second accident, thank you very much, happened up on Highway 33. Had to be helicoptered out. I busted my ankle. I still have a stainless steel plate and 6 screws in my upper ankle.
Oh my.
Yeah, oh, I'm proud of it in a sort of perverted way. But I was in a wheelchair and on crutches for 4 months. I couldn't ride. I really couldn't go anywhere unless somebody came to pick me up. So I had been writing, when I was out riding on my long distance rides, I was writing these things called travel blogs that are just, once, twice a week. This is where I went, some photos I took, blah, blah, blah. And so I just thought, man, I got to do something. I'd turn on the TV and it's going nuts, man. I hate that. So I just started gathering together those travel blogs and filling in the missing spaces and everything, and just ended up with a book. And that was it. It took me about 3 months to write that book. And fortunate enough to get a really good publisher on it, Hugo House, and the book did okay. And here's what it is, and I sort of mentioned this earlier, and that is that you just you write it and you have it. The story's there, the sequence and all that and everything, and you start looking at it and you go, yeah, but I don't need those 3 words in there, do
Yeah.
I? And then you look at something and you go, yeah, but there's a better word to say there than this other one. And you get into those details. And I know this quote. It's Mies van der Rohe, architect from
Right.
Germany, where he said, God exists in the details.
Yep.
And boy, that is so true. And you just get into the details and you start wondering, well, should I carve that off in commas, or should I just leave it, or do I put the word and, or do I take the word out? And it's just fascinating. And you start pulling out all your favorite books and all your favorite authors, and you go, how did these guys do that? What do they do? And something like that. And you read it and you go, this is way different than what I wrote. I don't know, but And so you get there, and it's a similar thing to composing music. You compose it, and when you're done, it's your first draft is, let's face it, it's pretty much done. But boy, you get to that perfection where you take out all the unneeded notes, put that one note back in, and just go work it back and forth and back and forth, and it's just it is a divine activity. I don't mean to go out and brag about
No, it is.
being godlike or anything, but it really is. And when you finally get it right, and you finally get that paragraph, and you finally get that chapter right, boy, it's a something else. And then of course you go back 2 or 3 months later after it's been published, and you read it and you go, yeah, it probably could have been better.
I wrote my first book for well, I was going to say Amphoto, but it's not Amphoto, Amherst Media. And
Yeah.
I did that. I went back through it, and then I went back through it. And they were warning me, don't do that. Write it, go back through it one time and send it to us. But I kept going back and going back. Finally, I sent them the manuscript. And then about a month later, I get the galley back.
Uh-huh.
And I sit down and I open it up and I go, what? This isn't what I wrote. Oh no, they had an editor go in there and just edit the ever-loving crap out of my book. I mean, move this chapter over here and this chapter over.
Yeah. Well, my editor, Dr. Patricia Ross, is terrific. She's fabulous. And, I go through the manuscript so often. I basically am editing at that point. I am editing. So when I sent her the first book, she really liked it. She sent me back, the corrections, which were all grammatical. And I had some fabulous phone conversations with this woman, arguing about commas. I love this. And So she really didn't change anything. In the first book, there was one word, and we argued about it for a week. I just, not in a bad way, but
Yeah, sure,
just.
sure.
And but the word is when I described Crazy Horse coming down to Rosebud, and I had read a book. It may have been Faulkner or something, and I described the sound of his horses as a rataplan, Rataplan, and which means a rapid beating sound. That's what it means, right? So I thought, wow, I was all proud of that and everything. So Patricia calls me and she goes, Dwight, dear, she goes, you have this word rataplan. And I go, yeah, isn't it a great word? And she goes, well, yes, it's a great word, but dear, I have a PhD in English literature and I had to look it up. And so I did change that word. It's not in the book. And she was right. But I just love that
That's a great
high.
word.
It is a great word. I wish everybody knew it so you could use it. It's just a rapid beating sound, the rataplan. But anyway, no, she's good, and she does point out these little things that are just I would never see them in a million years. Like Dwight, so you went over here and you talked to this guy, and that's fine. That's really good. Conversation's good and everything. Where in the heck were you? And I go, oh, that's right. I was in South Carolina. Thanks. I just, just those simple things. And, I love her. I absolutely love her. So.
Now, I have a feeling Freedom's Rush 2, the new book that just came out, there's a link below. The new book that just came out, that was written not from, there we go. I hope this is recording up here. Very good. The Biker and the Beast. How is the Beast, by the way? You had it rebuilt here in Phoenix?
Yeah, well, Drew, my mechanic, was in Phoenix. He's moved back to Palmdale.
Okay.
So yeah, I had a little. It was hard to tell because I had electrical problems when I was up in Alaska. So it's hard. I don't know exactly how many miles, but it was at least 108,000. And so he deserved some TLC. So it still has a Harley engine in it, but we rebored it out to 117 cubic inches, which is 1917 cc's, which to be, I love it. Okay, just that. To be honest, it's way more than anybody needs to ride on the street. And that thing is more of a beast now than ever. Andrew's gear set, Rivera push rods, fueling lifters. This thing, a new pipe, Vance and Hine Pro pipe. Geez, it just goes on and on.
It's
so
99 Lowboy?
No, it's a Deuce, a 2000 Softail Deuce.
Softail.
Yeah, Softail Deuce. They made them for 8 years, from 2000 to 2007. Personally, I think it's the most beautiful bike ever made. The reason they did the Softails to make them look like the old hardtails, because you can't see any kind of suspension on the back. And I have no saddlebags, so it's I don't know. I love that bike, man. I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. I love the way sitting in it. Man, it's nice. I took it back to him. We're putting in we had a little short. My headlamp shorted out, so I'm putting in an LED headlight, and then some other thing just to adjust it, because you rebuild an engine and then you go out and you go, well, this and this and this. And so, yeah, I should get back the next day or two, and then I'm going to take off early next week for my summer ride.
Where are you going?
Well, first I'm going to head up north. I'm from Visalia, California, so I'll stop there. I live in Southern California. So stop there, visit some high school buddies, and then go up to meet a couple of other friends on the way up. My younger daughter and my kids and kidlets live in Vancouver, Washington. So I'm going up there, stay a couple of 3 or 4 days, and then ride around the Olympic Peninsula, go out to Cape Flattery, and maybe go back and visit them for a little bit, and then go into Idaho. I'm dying to visit Shoshone Falls. and uh, which waterfalls. I mean, you've taken photos of waterfalls,
Mhm.
right? You know. Now, you got to promise not to make fun of me. Okay. I have a medium. I use a medium priced point and shoot.
Good.
Okay, a Sony CyberShot. You know, it does it. But every time I've taken photos of waterfalls, all I get is a bunch of washed out white. But so I'd probably need another $2,000 worth of equipment to
No,
actually
no, you should be
really
able.
get the
No,
volatile.
you should
Yeah,
be
but
able to do
anyway,
it. I'm not gonna. I'll talk to you off camera at some point, but on
okay.
your camera, you should have even the a medium price point and shoot is going to have it's going to have exposure compensation, and
Okay.
what you want to do is dial it to the minus by one.
Okay.
Because what's happening is the darkness around the water is
Uh-huh.
making the camera overexpose the foam, the
Oh,
rushing part. And so you're going to tell the camera, ignore that for one stop, and it should bring it back.
awesome. What's it called again?
It's called
I just
exposure compensation.
exposure compensation.
Yeah.
Actually, God, I love you, man. Maybe I'll finally get a good waterfall photo. But I've
That's
seen
not
photos
Idaho.
of what's that?
Shoshone's in Idaho.
Yeah, it's in southern Idaho. Shoshone Falls. It's I think it's real close to the Snake River there, which is probably my second favorite river. I love that river, man. It's just
Wow. Well, I
yeah.
leave a week from this Sunday. I leave to go up to Fairbanks.
Oh
Um,
man.
I'm going up all the
Oh
way up through the
God.
northern Rockies up to Fort Nelson and then over,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then coming back down through the Cassiar
Hmm.
Highway into Prince George, and then we'll have to make some decisions because the wildfires there at
Yeah.
Cache City, I think it's called, or something like that, is just they're just out of control. I mean, they're literally that whole area is burning down. It's just a shame.
It is a shame. But I can't wait to hear about your trip, man. Well,
You
have you
freaked
read
me
about
out,
my
man,
trip?
on the book. I'm
Well,
like,
I
I'm kind of
remember
like,
you
okay,
you
I'm good with gravel. I mean, it's pucker time for gravel. I'm okay with gravel. And then you got to the part about mud, and I went,
mud.
uh, I'm, I'm running these like Michelin tires. It's like smooth tire, little groove, and it's just like I don't. I think they're going to be good for about 18 inches into the mud, and then I'm in
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah, well, you won't run into mud that deep, I don't think. But it's a little heart stopping the first time you come to when they've dug up the road. Most of the road, most of that Alaska highway is in Canada, and it's chip seal, which is a cheaper way to do asphalt. And the way they fix it is that they just dig up the entire road. I mean, they just like a foot down, and then they dump it over to these big heater mixer things and then put it back. And but while it's gone, you know, if it's raining a lot, there's mud down there, and sometimes there's these big fist-sized rocks and everything. And but the thing is that you're never going fast. You're going 5 or 10 miles an hour.
Right.
So 15 maybe, you know, because you're following a pilot car and other cars and other bikers and everything. So if you end up going down, it's not a crash. You've fallen over.
Right.
Yeah.
And hopefully there's somebody to help me pick that bike up because it weighs about 900
Oh,
pounds.
they will. They will. People up there are fabulous.
Did you
But
have did you have saddlebags on the beast when you did it?
no, no. I have a pillion
Uh-huh.
uh, behind me, and I have a bag. It's about I guess about 2 feet wide and about 3.5 feet tall and about that thick. And I put everything in there, and then I have a little barrel. I call it a keg. It's a hard plastic covered with black leather on the luggage rack. And you know, I travel real light. I have 4 t-shirts, 4 sets of socks, and that's it. You know,
Yeah.
the only thing I'll tell you this, the only thing I was worried about you going up there because you're a camera guy, and that's keeping your camera clean. You know, because even if it's not raining, it's dusty. You know, in those repair spots. But you're going to absolutely love it.
I
You are
have
just going to love it.
I have this little guy that'll be in my pocket.
Okay.
Little point and shoot that's in my pocket. Makes a nice photograph. My good stuff is in a small case, and that
Uh-huh.
case is in a waterproof case in my trunk. And
Smart
that's where
man.
it'll stay until I need the big gun camera to come out to make the shot. This will
Yeah.
cover me for pretty much everything, and my iPhone. So
Right. Right. It's always a good backup. And but my favorite story up there was the longest stretch between gas stations and fill up with gas. I don't care if you have three-quarters of a tank. You see a gas station, just fill it up. Just don't do what I did. And but the longest stretch is between Destruction Bay and Beaver Creek. It's about 115, 120 miles, and 90% of that was just covered with this thin, slimy mud. And it's raining, and boy, 120 miles in second gear. It's just like, shoot me. Ah. Anyway, there was a stretch of asphalt, chip seal. So I pull over, and a guy from Texas, Ty from Texas, pulls up behind me. And we're talking, and a great guy, we're talking about bacon and beer and family and stuff. So he gets to take off before me, and he pulls up alongside of me. And you know that old biker saying, keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down, right? So he pulls up alongside of me. He says, I'd tell you to keep the shiny side up, but on a road like this, there ain't no such thing. Because
um,
it was just covered. But you will absolutely love it. You'll find out things about yourself. It will change your life, and it'll be something. It's it's so spectacular up there, and the road, and just doing that road, and everything is so spectacular. You would trade all of your other rides just for that one. That's how amazing it is.
uh,
And
very
there are
excited.
so many beautiful places on this in the world. I mean, there is no shortage of beauty. I mean, you normally think of Arizona as say desert, and dry and hot and everything, but man alive, there are just places, Arizona, even New Mexico, Colorado, the Smoky Mountains and everything. The difference with Alaska is the magnitude of it. It's just enormous up there. And there, once you really get in about 150, 200 miles into the highway, no power lines, no phone lines, no billboards, and you can ride for 20, 30 minutes and not see another person.
Wow.
I mean, it's just that awesome. I'm thrilled that you're going to do it. I can't wait.
And you went in August as well, right?
Well, I went toward the end of August.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, I ran into a lot of precipitation. I think, and I got hung up with the electrical problems. I had to wait 5 days in a town of 160 people for a battery and this and that. I was up there for about 3 weeks, and I think maybe 1 or 2 days it didn't rain, at least rain. But I remember riding through sleet,
Oh
snow,
my.
just being so just insanely cold. Because even though, on the highway, when you're getting on, if it's 25 degrees, you still have a 45-mile-an-hour wind chill factor. And, but, every night I'd get into some motel. I just think, man, this is the life. It just doesn't get better.
Wow,
And,
you had a
and you
cold
went
time.
through,
I'm following the temperatures up there, and they're like 40s, 45 at night, and
oh, yeah. Yeah.
65 during the day. But some other my friends they just came down from Fairbanks to Anchorage through
Uh-huh.
Denali, and it snowed and hailed on them. It's like,
Yeah, it did on
wow.
me too. Well, you're going to be up there a little earlier. I think I was told that the best time is from mid-June to the beginning of August. That's that's the best time. That's when they do most of the road construction. That's when most of the people go up there. Um, yeah, but you're smarter than I am, so you're getting up there earlier in the season.
I just I just wanted to miss the mosquitoes.
Well, that's a trade-off because if it's raining, you don't have mosquitoes, and
Yeah,
when it's not raining, and the mosquitoes are about the size of, you know, jaguars. I
yeah,
mean, they're just enormous.
big guys.
Yeah.
What's happening on the creative front for you? What are you working on now?
I just finished my first novel.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, I've sent it out to two friends who, so far, who read a lot, and they're just like reading. You have friends too. Every time you see them, they got a book or their Kindle.
hmm
They and not for any kind of feedback or anything, but I found out when I the first Freedom's Rush book, I got it all done. It's on my laptop. Everything's great. I'm thinking it's wonderful. And then the moment I had to send it to somebody else was a oh shit moment. It's like, oh, you mean somebody else is going to read this? Oh my God, and it's this whole different level of discipline.
sure.
So that's the reason I did it. And it's true, even though these people I know, they're wonderful, they're sweet, but it was still the idea that somebody else is going to read this. Just added that extra discipline on it, and it was a good thing. It's a good thing too. So I'm still going through it, doing those final things. It's called The Poet, the Professor, and the Redneck, and I love the story. And it's a novel, straight up novel, and yeah, I'll publish it next year.
I have
And
my novels on hold, and it's
mm-hmm.
called The Old Indian in Me,
Ah,
and you can
is that the
imagine what
the
that's
Indian
about.
motorcycle or
1954 Indian motorcycle
oh, okay. Oh, great.
being
Great.
being passed down by this very mysterious person,
Uh-huh.
almost ethereal person, and the bike has kind of a, let's just say the bike has a life of its own, a
Oh, I love that.
redemption,
Uh-huh.
hero's journey kind of thing. The bike is the catalyst for change,
Uh-huh.
and then it gets passed on to someone else. So,
Oh,
the old Indian
awesome.
in me.
The old Indian in me. I love it. I love it. Great title.
Um, hey, it's been really great chatting with you, my friend.
Yeah, you're a good man. I like you, Don.
I
We
like you
got to
too,
get
sir.
together someday and we'll argue about who's going to buy the first round.
Absolutely. I'm going to be up. Let's see. My schedule is from here to Panguitch, uh, Utah, then Panguitch up to I think Idaho Falls, and then I have to make a decision whether I'm going to go over to Sandpoint and up, or just go right up 93. I've heard 93 is just
Oh,
absolutely stunning.
that whole area up there is stunning.
And hopefully
Standpoint,
get
Coeur
I'd be crossing into Canada beginning of the fourth day. So
Oh, okay.
try to put as many miles under my butt as I can initially, so I can spend more miles or more time up there. So
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and it's not the kind of ride once you get up there that you're going to want to put in a lot of miles in a day, just because you stop and take photos and chat with people, and you know,
yeah.
I don't know if you're married, but there are waitresses to flirt with. So.
No, I'm married. I'm past that.
Oh,
And while the
okay.
waitresses are cute, I'm probably in the parking lot ogling the other motorcycles. So
All right. All right.
I appreciate you
Yeah.
coming on and chatting. And like I said, folks, the links to the both of the books are down below the YouTube here. I
Oh,
appreciate
wait,
it,
wait, wait,
Dwight,
wait.
my friend. I'm gonna. I hope this is, if this is not recording us, because I only did this first time ever I've done the video, so I don't know if it's recording the video or not.
Okay.
If it is, awesome. If it's not, I'll get those thumbnails down in there and as well.
All right.
Dwight Mikkelsen, Foster Ken, thank you, sir, for coming on.
And thank you, my friend. Good man.